Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Yes, You Are Brave. Pawnee, your host, and I am super excited. We have a guest today. We have Ellie Hyvonen here, who is a life and health coach who supports women that look fine on paper but feel overwhelmed and disconnected on the inside. That one hits home so hard. Ellie works with a broad range of people, recovering perfectionists, burnout executives, professional work teams, and stay-at-home moms. So welcome so much, Ellie. We are super excited to have you here. You want to just tell us a little bit about yourself to start off?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, as you mentioned, I coach primarily women, but definitely a wide audience for women who feel exhausted on the inside and are looking to kind of reclaim some rhythm and energy in their life. So we look a lot at what habits and behaviors are draining our energy. And then we create sustainable habits with systems of support and accountability, which most of us need to move forward and to look at what it is that we want and why we want that thing. So I love this business, You Are Whole Coaching. It's been a great part of my journey and definitely part of my recovery story as well. I'm also a part-time teacher. I teach Spanish and English, and I love that. I love the whole Spanish world. Spent quite a bit of time there. So yes, that's another big passion of mine.
Awesome. And what inspired you to go into life coaching and helping other people? What was the inspiration, I think, the catalyst for you to do that?
That's
Just
a great
curious.
question. Yeah, that's a great question. Mostly from my own story. So I definitely was one of those people that could really hold a lot together on the outside. I had all the grades, I did all the things, but during late high school and into college, I got really sick with a chronic illness. And that was really debilitating. And I lost a lot of my ability to have a clear mind. I lost a lot of my hair. I lost the ability to write. I spent many years in summers with knee braces and joint problems. And it really just shook my identity, and my perfectionism had to go on hold. My whole identity of what I had believed I could be and do had to pause, and I had to heal. And that came through a lot of small habits and just changes that weren't necessarily the big poster board medications and everything, as much as going back to the basics and healing my gut and resting and finding joy and just being present at where I was in my suffering. And so coming out of that, I'd wanted to go into a world of helping people. I had spent quite a few months living in Costa Rica and working in a rehab world with adolescent girls, which is a beautiful experience and so hard. And just walked with these girls where they were at. And when I came home from that, I wanted to continue to take those lessons and take them back to the States, to New Hampshire, where I lived, and surrounding communities. So since that time, a few years ago, I've just been seeking to be a presence for people, to talk openly about what it is that they're dreaming up, what they need sustainable habit change in, and to be that accountability for them.
I love that. I love sustainable habits and little small things, going back to the basics. I think a lot of times we are all looking for this big magic, huge transformation, right? The little 30-second montage in the movie, like that's what we would like it to be.
Yep.
And we don't want to acknowledge that montage covers like 3 years.
Yeah.
But I love that. And I love being a presence for people. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you said you talked about building sustainable habits and you're overcoming perfectionism as well. What is one of the things that is most helpful when we are overcoming perfectionism and those type of things?
That's a great question. When it comes to perfectionism, what I love to say is that the key to perfectionism is to throw the key away, right? We hear those stories, lock the door and throw the key away, like Cinderella, right? And that's been my ideology with perfectionism, that it's not something that is actually attainable at all. And it hurts us to be only focusing on that perfect level that we need. And that often is an expectation we put on ourselves, and it overwhelms us. and it leads to burnout. And for me, it led to a lot more. It led to worse sickness. It led to worse obsessions. It led to disordered eating. It really was so many pieces where it can be good, it can also be a bane for us. So that's why I founded my business around the word wholeness, that we would make wholeness the goal because we are whole. We are mind, we are body, we are spirit. We're not meant to be perfect. We're meant to go up a mountain one step at a time, and sometimes there's bumps in the road, and that's okay. That is what makes our stories beautiful at the end of the day.
I love that. Is that there's no reaching perfection, right? And I think, at least for me, I think sometimes we hold that like being a perfectionist is kind of like this badge of honor. It's kind of like being busy, right? We think it's like, oh, look at me. I'm like only do things if I can do them perfectly or do them super well. And then we get overwhelmed by we don't do anything because we see something, we think I can't do it 120%, so I'm not going to do it at all.
Right,
So I love that. And
right.
what do you, let's talk about overwhelm for a minute. Um,
Yeah.
you seem to have some serious answers about overwhelm. So what do you feel like for perfectionists? What does overwhelm look like?
That's a great question. Overwhelm, it can come from so many places. It might be your workload, it might be home stress, it might be a lack of food or poor sleep or chronic illness or maybe some unmet expectations. And often we have that feeling of overwhelm. You feel your chest tighten or your brain fogs, or maybe you open your email and you forget how to breathe, or your to-do list has to-do lists. Those are all experiences of overwhelm that we commonly experience, and we respond differently. And overwhelm is essentially just a mental traffic jam. It's when the stress coming in exceeds our nervous system's ability to cope. And then we can't respond logically or calmly anymore. And that's when those thoughts come in, those, I can't do this. I'm behind again. Everyone else is handling it better than me. And that loop just goes on repeat. And we have those feelings. It's important to note that overwhelm is an emotion. So we feel it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's telling the truth. So that's the first kind of key thing to recognize about overwhelm. And just to recognize that when that alarm goes off, when your amygdala or fight or flight center is activating and you can't think straight, that's when we have to slow our system down. We have to go back to just small steps, taking one thing at a time and going back to getting that really thinking prefrontal cortex back in control, which is possible. We can do that.
I love, I have never really, maybe I wasn't listening, like the idea of overwhelm being an emotion. Like that's something
Hmm.
that feels like very new to me and like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Because they say
Yeah.
that what emotions are their lifetime, if we let them, is only like 90 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I love that, like, okay, if I recognize this as an emotion and just feel it for a minute, and then
Hmm.
that opens
Right.
up a whole new world of possibilities.
It's
Um,
just data, right? Emotions can just be data. They don't really have to direct us. And it is important to feel them, you're right. But it doesn't have to direct all our next decisions.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I love that. So you said that we just need to slow down and then start taking little steps. What kind of steps do we take?
That's a great question. So, first, we should think about what really is going on in our brain. So, the problem is our fight or flight center, it doesn't know the difference between a real threat or just a stressful email. So, it's just freaking out. So, that blood is leaving our thinking part of our brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, and our ability to reason is going downhill. So, the first thing to notice is that you need to just show up. That's that first small step, is show up to yourself and to recognize that this mountain, it might seem like it's impossible, but showing up is already a first step that you've taken. And something that I love to encourage my clients with, we work through an acronym called FOCUS. And it kind of walks through in 5 minutes how to deal with a feeling of overwhelm. And I don't know if you'd like me to share, but we can talk about each of the letters if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm all about things
Yeah.
that are going to get me through the overwhelm because it happens a lot more than I like to admit.
Absolutely. So for F, we have feel it. So we are definitely naming and noticing. What I encourage my clients to do is quite literally to put your hand on your chest or that space where overwhelm is manifesting. Sometimes it is our mind. Sometimes it's your stomach, that fluttering or a tightness in our shoulders. And we just acknowledge, I feel X because Y. And simply by just engaging the thinking part of your brain, you're already calming your alarm system. So you're just feeling that. You're naming that emotion. You're recognizing, okay, this emotion is just data. It's not going to make a decision for me, but I'm feeling it, feeling this in my body. So that's F is feel it. And then O is oxygen first. So because breathing is something that we have to do, by deep, slow breathing, we're telling our nervous system, which remember, our nervous system is activated. We're telling our nervous system we're safe. And you're physiologically changing your nervous system by slowing that breathing, by slowing your heart rate. And that is where the change starts, is in your body. And so then C is choose top 3 priorities. So what I love to encourage is that honestly, productivity can only come back into play once you're regulated. So we've done that. The oxygen has done that. The feeling that has done that. And then we do a brain dump. So I do encourage people, write down everything that is overwhelming you in this moment, whether you are a busy mom and you have 90 things to do in the next hour, or you're feeling that stress as a busy CEO, whatever that looks like for you in your job, is to do a brain dump, everything that feels urgent. And then choose the top 3. What are the top 3 that would make the biggest difference in the next 30 minutes? And I say 30 minutes because that's as long as we're realistically able to focus when we're calming down our nervous system. And then after that is unwind your body. So that's the U, unwind. And part of that is a little movement reset. There's such power, again, back to the basics of just moving your body because your mind and your body are inseparable, right? So when you're standing up or you're rolling your shoulders back or you're even just lifting your chin and just bringing that confidence and that brain shift into your moment is huge. And then the last one is speak the truth. So you're thinking about all the future things in the moment of overwhelm, everything that might go wrong. But bringing us back to what's true right now is where the power is. That's the small step that we have to come back. And we have to say, is it actually true that I'm a failure? Or is this thought really helping me right now? Is everyone else actually better at this than me? Or whatever that alarming thought is. That's just beep, beep, beep in our mind, right? So the feel it is F, oxygen first. The choose top 3 priorities, unwind your body, and then speak the truth.
That is awesome. I love the conciseness. I don't know if that's a word.
I think so. Yeah, I think
Of
it
it
is.
all.
It's very concise.
Yes, it's very concise, and I love that. And I love the feeling it and the naming it. I have to admit, it's only been fairly recently, last couple 5 or 6 years, that I've not been hiding from feelings. Because I was always just
Yeah,
kind of one of those, just shove it under the rug, keep going, um,
right.
and stuff like that. So would you encourage people to actually feel the feelings and get to where they're comfortable being uncomfortable feeling? I don't know if that question makes sense,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's
how
great.
do we get to that place where we're okay, like sitting in that uncomfortable feeling for a few seconds or a few minutes
Yeah,
to regulate? How would you
that's a
think?
great question. And I totally relate to that because I also am the person who just puts on the mask and I can be like, yes, everything's fine, but underneath you're not. So I would first say that it's going to take some practice, just like any other muscle, to sit with it. And I love what you said earlier about your emotions, that they'll really only be on their high for 90 seconds. And if we can do sit-ups for 90 seconds or scroll on our phone for 90 seconds or wash our hands, hopefully, for 90 seconds, brush your teeth. There's other things you can do for 90 seconds. You are capable of sitting with an emotion for 90 seconds. Some people just have to write that out. Some people have to speak that out and just recognize, this is just a momentary feeling. But after 90 seconds, your body does begin to naturally tell you something. It will either scream for regulation or it will say, well, actually wasn't much. This actually is not true. And often someone will come into our life, which is great. Someone will come over and help us, or we have the insight in our own mind, I need to seek help somewhere. So that's where I would encourage community in this, having that one or two people in your life, even if it's one, that you are safe to process this with. And just to say, I've really been just struggling every time this happens. I'm freaking out and I'm experiencing this overwhelm and the kids are crying and I got to get going by 7:30 in the morning and it's not working, right? To have someone to kind of bounce that off with, to process that through has really helped me. Just have that one person in the moment of overwhelm. Be with me. What do I do?
I love that because it's so easy when it's not your set of problems, right? It's so easy to see the logic and see the process
Yeah.
of what probably needs to be done when it's not yours.
Right.
I know there's been a lot of times when I'm like, just tell me what to do next. And it's like, well, you do this. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's painfully
Yeah.
obvious, but it's hard to
Yeah.
see that.
And you know why now that your
Yeah.
brain is kind of on alarm mode. So if your brain's not in its thinking mode, it's prefrontal cortex mode, then it really is hard to think straight, which sounds crazy because when you're not in the problem, you're like, why didn't I just choose that? That makes sense. But when you're on the mountain and you're looking straight up,
Mhm.
you are not recognizing, wow, I've already showed up. I'm already taking a confident step. Great job, me. And
Mhm.
acknowledging that. And then, okay, first thing, I'm just going to sit with this for a second. And then we start breathing and we come back to the present.
Yeah. And I also love what you said, like the breathing has been super helpful.
Yeah.
I love it's one of those, also one of those things I was like, well, that's dumb. Like that can't,
Right. Yeah.
that's not,
Totally.
it's not going to solve my problem. And it doesn't necessarily solve your problem, but it does get your brain into a point where your brain can think again, which I think is fun, which is good. And then I love what you said about the brain dump
Mm,
and getting things out of your mind, because I feel like sometimes when we get them out of our head, they're not as big. Um,
yeah.
at least for me, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, this is really big. And then once I say it or I write it down, then you look at it and you're like, oh,
Right.
that's not that big. Um, so I love the process. What kind of movement do you personally like to do? I know everybody has their thing that they do, but what do you like to do personally?
Yeah. I think it depends on the situation or the time of day for people. Sometimes in the nighttime or the evenings, if an overwhelming situation comes in the evening and you're trying to calm down and go to bed, often the best thing to do is actually to sleep on it, right? If you're close to the end of the day and the overwhelm moment is happening, best thing to do is to try to uncharge, separate, do some self-care, find that calm space. And the next morning, you can think so much straighter. If it is in the morning or it is just a crash and burn moment and you're kind of in that panic, I would always say that we do need that first simple stretch. So putting our shoulders back and kind of rolling our neck right and left, taking that tension out of your neck because you're probably tensed up. Often I do just a quick lap around whatever building or space I'm in. I might try to get outside. Some of that fresh air will reshock your nervous system, which is super important. Sometimes people love to just do some hand flicks and just kind of change your scenery for a few minutes. Would always encourage that. And if there is a space where you can actually get out, go take 30 minutes at lunch, take a 30-minute walk. I know some people that even my uncle is a crazy kayaker, and even in the middle of a big, long engineering day, he would stop at lunch and go kayak on the river and come back. My grandfather, too, he would go running at lunch and be right back at the desk by 1, would do a quick run in the middle of the day, and he could come back and solve the problem that he had started better than he had before. And it can be simple. It can be a quick thing of push-ups. It can just be a little stretch, little waist movement, just to change our body posture and our mindset about what we're doing.
Yeah, I love that idea of just taking a little break from it if we can, because I know that there's been a lot of times when I'm trying to solve a problem and you keep trying and then you start messing up. I keep thinking of like I make quilts occasionally, and sometimes when I'm like, oh no, I'm just gonna finish, and then I make a mistake, and then I make another mistake, and it's like I could spend 2 more hours making mistakes and undoing them, or I could just leave it.
Yeah. Yep.
Leave it for 5-10 minutes, come back and finish it in 20
Right.
minutes. And so,
That's
uh,
so real. I so relate with that. Like, you just need to leave it, especially as a perfectionist,
mhm,
recovering perfectionist. That is huge. You just got to leave it, come back to it. You'll come back to it better.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that is hard to do that sometimes because we want to get things done.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but and we want to get those things done. And so I want to talk just a tiny bit about the last step. You said speak your truth, and like talking about the truth and helping yourself realize what it is. So can we
Yeah.
go just a little bit deeper into that of like how do we do that? What's the process
Yeah.
look like for that, speaking the
Yeah.
truth?
So the question here is really about what role do our thoughts and our words have in overwhelm? And it's pretty huge, very huge, because like I mentioned, overwhelm is future focused, but coming back to where we are right now is essential because when you're so future focused, you're not in your present moment. But the ironic thing is, you can only be in the present moment. You can't be in the future moment. And the future is just made up of a bunch of nows. So that's the now that you're supposed to sit in. And it's really about that manifestation shift, right? You're shifting your mindset to, okay, I'm recognizing this problem. It's freaking me out a little bit. That's okay. What are my resources? I've already brain dumped. These are the top three. And now I just sit with one. And just speaking that out loud, even, is putting yourself in control. That's showing that confidence, that's speaking that confidence instead of speaking the panic, the negative thoughts over yourself, or just mulling in our thoughts, which is the other option, which is also not great, but not recommend, which is why the
Yeah.
movement comes in first, right? So getting away, moving, regulated, they're in order for a reason.
Yeah. And I love that it's mulling in our thoughts. We just got to get out of our head a lot of times. Um, I love that. And one thing that I wanted to maybe spend just a few minutes on, if we could, you talked about overwhelm being future focused, and that like we really
Mm,
can only be in the present. But when we get overwhelmed, it's when we get too, we say
yeah.
preoccupied with the future and maybe like the what ifs.
Yeah.
So what are you, maybe if like, do you have any tricks or tips for like staying in the moment so that maybe we can prevent a little bit of overwhelm in the future?
Yeah. That's great. I think key to this is learning to slow down. We're a very fast paced culture, right? And having spent a lot of time in the third world and in a lot of Spanish countries, specifically in Costa Rica, I just learned to live in a culture that was not framed by time and by rushing, busyness, and to dos so much. And it really helped form my identity to become less defined by what I do. Because if those qualities go away, if you can't do those things, then what do you know by? Are you going to have those relationships? Are you going to have those characteristics about you? Or is it just going to be your money and your stuff and what you do? So I think key to this is the slowing down piece, living our days slower. And it starts with the habits beforehand. Have I rested well? Did I nourish myself well? Am I doing too much? Is this problem maybe not even a problem I should have faced because I'm doing way too much? And if I didn't have all these other things going on, maybe this wouldn't seem like such a big problem. So I do think we have to look at the bigger picture. How much do I have going on that's making me not present right now? And beyond the looking back, I would encourage more the looking forward of, okay, well, what sort of person do I want to be in this moment now? And why do I want this? What's important about this for me? Because when you tie that to the motivation, then you're aware of that why behind the why. And you have a reason to do something. You have a reason to solve the problem. And it's easier to just sit in that present moment instead of all the future things that might not happen, which are big mights sometimes.
Yeah, I love that that might happen because there's too many possibilities, right, to really go through them all.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I love that of what you said about like, is this something that I should take on? Um, is this a problem that I have space and time and space for? I know that that's something that for me has been a big thing the last little while is if this is not mine, I shouldn't pick it up, right? Or if it's also like if I can't do anything to help with it, I really
Mm.
shouldn't pick it up because there's
Yeah.
sometimes like if I could solve somebody's problem and actually be helpful, then it would be fine to
Yeah.
step up and help. But a lot of times I think we get overwhelmed by things we can't do anything about.
Yeah.
And it's just we pick up the
Yeah.
worry. At least I historically have done that.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. We pick up the worry and we pick up the just mulling it over in our minds when there's
Right.
really nothing we can do about it. And
Right.
it only just makes us adds to our overwhelm. Um,
Yeah. And we're hard on ourselves. We don't have compassion on ourselves. We will often beat ourselves up first. So that acknowledging of ourselves does give us a new energy, a new wind, which is huge. We need energy to move forward. We need energy now in order to take the next step. So you can't burn it all up upstairs when you're worrying because there's energy you need right now to solve your problem.
yeah. And I love that of we can't just burn it all. It's like the worry is like the whole analogy with like the rocking chair. Like worrying
Yes.
is like sitting in a rocking chair
Yes.
and
Right.
like
Yeah.
it feels like you're moving and it feels like you're doing something, but you're really
Mm,
not going anywhere.
yeah.
Um, which is I love that. I also love rocking chairs because I like rocking chairs. But
Yeah. Help me sit in it.
yeah,
Yeah, but
help me.
not sitting too long in your worry, right? What will
Yeah,
worrying add to your life?
yeah.
Won't extend your life. It'll probably shorten it actually,
It definitely,
honestly.
I think it will, and it just makes it less. What is it? Less enjoyable. Something I
Yeah,
saw
less
recently.
joy.
It's like if you were what does it say? It said something about like if you refuse to find joy in the snow, you will have less joy in your life, but you will have the same amount of snow. Like, it doesn't,
That's great.
like
Makes a lot of sense right now, right?
yeah, like you can not be happy about it, but you're gonna have the same amount of stuff. Um, I I love this thing. I love this conversation about overwhelm and just
Yeah.
learning and developing the habits. I know we
Right.
don't have tons of time, but what are your top like habits? What habit would you start with? I know we don't want to start with a ton of habits because if we try to build too many at once, we don't get anywhere. But what would you be like your top 3 habits to start with to like develop the tools you need to to face overwhelm effectively? I don't know if that makes sense.
I would start with resting well. I would start with, am I cultivating rest in my life? Am I getting close to 8 hours of sleep? And am I really having that power down hour? Even if it's just the habit of an hour before bed, you're off of fake lights and screens coming in. You're letting your natural sleep pressure rise. You're in soft light, soft environments and letting your natural body and its circadian rhythm just calm down and come into a restful state. And then once you are waking, are you still remaining in a state of slowness to start? Are you um, nourishing yourself well? I would say that would be second. Eat breakfast, nourishing breakfast, protein dense, get that digestion rolling. It's the best thing you can do. Eat breakfast like a king. So starting with your rest habit, what does that look like for you? And just learning to cultivate rest well. And then upon waking, start with the real energy, not just caffeine, but hydration. You've been fasting, right, for 8 hours. So starting with that water and starting with a protein dense breakfast, get everything moving, and then your mind follows. But not the other way around, not your phone right away to overwhelm you, not that doom scroll. That doesn't need a frame or a day. There's so many other basic things, right, that our ancestors lived by and swore by, and it seemed to work. And a lot of them changed the world. So we can do that too.
Yeah, I love those as a place to start because a lot of times we start with like people want to start with these crazy big things out here and it's like if you don't rest well, you can't
Yeah.
do any of those things.
Yeah.
Um and And I think as we get a little older, we appreciate rest a little bit more.
Right.
At
So
least I
true.
have. It's like, no, rest is not, sleep is not overrated.
Yes. It's necessity. We are
It's a
made to rest.
necessity. Your
Mhm.
body is an amazing thing that will fix itself if you give it time to fix itself.
Yes, right.
But,
So
you
true.
don't work on a car when it's still hot. So,
Yeah.
same
Great,
type of a thing.
great thought. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, any other thoughts that you want to share as we kind of wind down? This has been a really fun, awesome conversation. I love it.
Yeah.
But what
I would
else?
just say, remember to be gracious with yourself. A lot of us suffer from a really high knowledge diet. We know what to do, but then we don't put it into practice, which is why I think my coaching just mindset is, make the goal wholeness, make the goal a little bit of nourishment with your spirit, a little bit with your mind, a little bit with your body. Be gracious with yourself as you're starting these new habits and just be curious, right? Our bodies are incredible labs that we can experiment on. We can try things and it will often bounce back. So be gracious as you're learning and being curious and not judgmental of yourself when these feelings do come and when you're learning to slow down, to notice if you're not very good at that yet, or to breathe if you don't really believe in that yet, or to move if you feel like it's not worth it because you may not have tried it. You don't know what it'll do.
Yes, that is fantastic. I love that being gracious with yourself and just curious because a lot of times we don't, that's not going to work. Um, and then we try it and it does, and we have to eat our words. But I love that. And so where can people find you if they would like you to help them through these struggles? Where can they find you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, if you would like a more tailored journey, I would love to invite you to a free consult with me. You can book on www.youarewholecoaching.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Ellie Hyvonen and You Are Whole Coaching. And I would just love to walk with you. I also have a free resource from this overwhelm discussion of this focus acronym. So, if you would like that resource, then definitely join and subscribe below, and you can receive that free resource as well as a consult with me, and we could start a journey together towards reclaimed energy.
I love that. And we will put all of those links so that you can be found. Those will be in the show notes as well. So will be easily found. Thank you so much for being here. This has been such a very helpful conversation, I think, for so many people. And because I think we all face overwhelm, no matter how hard we try. There's just this thing called life that always throwing things at us. And I think that this is some great tools to find our way through that. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you so much. I've so enjoyed this. Thank you.
Remember that you are awesome and you're brave, and we can climb that mountain one little step at a time.